Right now, a single video game studio is carrying the weight of the entire entertainment industry on its back. Rockstar Games has reportedly poured over $3 billion into developing of GTA 6. Think about that number. That isn't just a gaming budget, that is a massive structural gamble. If this game fails to completely redefine what an open world can do, it doesn't just hurt Rockstar, it fundamentally breaks the public's trust in what next generation technology actually means. With pre-orders officially live and the final November 19 release locked down in stone, the clock is ticking. The stakes couldn't be higher. Rockstar needs to deliver a world that feels completely alive, or face the most expensive entertainment disaster in human history. So, how do you spend $3 billion to make a virtual world feel real? The massive online buzz is all about the game's revolutionary NPC ecosystem. Rumors point to advanced machine learning patterns that allow NPCs to have their own memories, complex daily routines, and dynamic emotional reactions to your own actions. But before we look at how Rockstar is pulling this off, let's back up for a second and look at the real-world math of a video game engine. In any standard game, every single person you see walking down the street requires a chunk of your console's central processing unit to calculate their path, their outfit, and their behavior. If Rockstar is multiplying the number of NPCs on screen by 10 and giving each one a complex, memory-driven brain, and so on, how is a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X supposed to actually run this game at a stable frame rate without melting? The natural prediction is that Rockstar has engineered some impossible groundbreaking optimization code that allows thousands of highly intelligent AI brains to run simultaneously in the background. But that prediction is completely wrong. Rockstar isn't making a more advanced AI ecosystem. They are actually building a masterclass in psychological misdirection. According to their recently granted network and session management patents, the Rage engine isn't simulating a whole city of smart people. Instead, it uses a hyper-aggressive dynamic data streaming system. So what does that mean without fancy words? Well, the game only generates high-level intelligence for the NPCs within your immediate field of view. The moment an NPC walks behind a building, their brain is completely erased from the console active memory, reducing to a tiny single line of data script. So you are not walking through a living, breathing, permanent metropolis. You are just simply walking through a highly localized digital Truman Show that constructs itself 2 seconds before you look at it and instantly evaporates the moment you turn around. It is a brilliant illusion that saves the game's performance, but managing the processing power of the NPCs is only half the battle, because a living world doesn't just need to look real, it has to feel real. And that brings us directly to the absolute biggest nightmare facing GTA 6 game designers, the broken billionaire problem. With all that being said, let's look at the character you are actually rooting for here. Well, you, the player. In a massive management simulation or a survival game, any game, the fun comes from scarcity. You scrap by, you earn every dollar, and you feel the weight of every financial choice. But GTA has a core identity crisis. The game wants you to feel the gritty, high-stakes desperation of a criminal underdog story. The risk here is catastrophic for a game's pacing. If the game gives you millions of dollars too fast, the tension of the story completely dies. If it keeps you poor for too long, the player gets frustrated and quits. With GTA 6 aiming for unprecedented realism, balancing the game's internal economy is an existential design challenge. If they get the economic loop wrong, the entire narrative pacing collapses. Well, we do know from the trailers that Lucia and Jason start at the absolute bottom of the criminal food chain, robbing gas stations and liquor stores for a few $100 at a time. But let's pause and think about the natural progression of an open world sandbox. within a few hours of gameplay, you will inevitably pull off your first major heist. You'll have hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars sitting in your inventory. In a game completely obsessed with hyperrealism, what stops you from immediately buying an attack helicopter and bulletproof supercar in Chapter 2, completely breaking the challenge and the realism of the rest of the story? You would naturally predict that Rockstar will use classic video game design trick to stop you. Well, for example, artificial progression gates, high-level requirements, or just making luxury items absolutely expensive to force a long artificial grind. But that would completely shatter the illusion of a realistic world. Instead, Rockstar is flipping the script by introducing systemic friction based on deep analysis of their updated game engine mechanics. GTA 6 is moving away from abstract inventories. You can't just carry 10 assault rifles and $1 million in cash in your back pocket anymore. Like, for example, they introduced that system in RDR2. So let's try to paint a picture. Well, if you rob a bank and take 200 pounds of physical currency, you have to physically carry those duffel bags to a vehicle. If you want to buy high-end illegal military gear, you can't just log into a public website on your phone. You have to navigate a complex underground network of fences who take massive cuts, demand favors, and introduce high-risk police heat based on how clean your money is. The economy isn't balanced by a price tag. It's balanced by a physical, terrifying logistics of being a criminal. It means every single dollar you earn will feel heavy, dangerous, and incredibly hard to keep. But even if Rockstar perfectly balances the economy and perfectly fake the intelligence of its citizens, there is one final terrifying hurdle that could still cause the entire $3 billion project to completely crash and burn at launch. This brings us to the ultimate antagonist of this story, and that is the current generation of console hardware. When GTA 6 launches on November 19, 2026, it will be releasing on consoles that are already 6 years old. The PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X are characters in this shifting landscape that are pushed completely to their absolute structural limits. The risk here is concrete. If GTA 6 launches as a shattering, blurry, 30 frames per second mess, the community backlash will be swift and devastating. The multiplayer here is urgent. Rockstar cannot afford any more delays. They have already pushed the game back twice. The marketing engine is fully active. Pre-orders are eating up millions of dollars, and the entire gaming world is demanding a flawless, mind-blowing visual spectacle on day one. Just look at the visual fidelity shown in the official trailers. The ray-traced reflections of the cars, the physically simulated volumetric clouds, the individual strands of hairs blowing in the wind, and the sheer density of the crowds of the Vice Beach. So before we look at the leaked performance targets, let's look at the hardware reality. To achieve that level of graphical detail, a console usually has to render the game at a native 4K resolution. How can a mid-tier console GPU from years ago render native 4K resolution, calculate ray-traced lighting in real time, and maintain a smooth gameplay experience without dropping down to a cinematic slideshow? The natural prediction is that Rockstar will do what every other modern developer does: offer a compromised performance mode that completely strips away the ray tracing and lowers the resolution down to a blurry 180 just to hit 60 frames per second. But according to architectural deep dives of the engine's current state, Rockstar is rejecting that compromise entirely. They are not lowering the settings, they are changing how pixels are generated. GTA 6 is heavily utilizing advanced proprietary hardware upscaling algorithms. The game will likely run internally at an incredibly low base resolution, potentially as low as 720 or even 900 pixels. Then the engine boring custom software takes over, using temporal reconstruction to intelligently guess and draw the missing pixels in real time, upscaling the image to a crisp artificial 4K. The stunning graphics you are looking at aren't actually there. It is a highly sophisticated, real-time deepfake designed to trick your eyes into seeing a high-resolution masterpiece, while the hardware underneath is secretly running a low-resolution game just to survive. $3 billion doesn't buy a real world. It buys the most advanced, beautifully engineered illusion ever constructed. GTA 6 isn't pushing hardware forward, it is proving that game design is the ultimate art of deception. Pre-orders are live, and the big question is, are you willing to gamble your money on this illusion, or are you going to wait to see if the cracks in the code show up on day one? Let me know your predictions in the comment below. Hit subscribe for more deep mechanical breakdowns, and I'll see you in the next one.